The Fire Store, equipping protectors with passion. Every decision the Fire Store makes as a company is about its customers. As the holiday season has quickly approached, explore a wide selection of unique and practical gifts at the Fire Store's Gift Center. Find the perfect presents for firefighters, EMTs, and first responders today. The Fire Store's goal is to get you the gear you need when you need it at prices you can afford. Visit thefirestore.com for everything but the truck and shop its family of brands including Streamlight, MSA, Lion, Fleer, and more.
All right. Welcome to Fire Engineering Podcast, The Training Officer. I am your host, Dave McGlynn. Quick background of the show. If you're a first-time listener, like I say, every time I get a new guest, I oftentimes get new listeners. So I appreciate that, and I'm sure my guests will appreciate it because you're following them, and that's your loyalty to them. So the show is called The Training Officer. Fire Engineering gave me the podcast back in 2018. We called it Networking for Success, and then we changed it to The Training Officer because mostly that's a lot of the things that I covered and a lot of things that I talk about. As I've been with the fire engineering family, I have taught at FDIC, and a lot of what I teach is training officer development, training program development, stuff like that, how to network. And I guess the premises of the show is to talk to other people that have a training background or that are passionate about training, understand the importance of it, and to hear their story and share it with you. Your, I guess, piece in this is you get to be a student, right? Because we're training officers, so we get to talk to you. We get to tell you a little bit of tips and tricks, as my brother Champ likes to say, and give some nuggets. And just like I said, share a story. So this way people understand that you're not alone in your problems. A lot of us go through a lot of stupid things through our careers, and then if you get into training, it's an unforgiving realm. You don't get much sexiness out of being the training officer. Trust me when I tell you, which I think is my end all goal, is to try to reinvent the image of the training officer because that position is so important. So tonight I'm joined by a training officer. I'm joined with a guy that has a great training background, Brian Brush. He is training chief for the Midwest City, Oklahoma Fire Department. He's got more than 25 years of experience. His background spans from several different states, doing rural and city-type metro-sized fire departments. He holds a master's degree in Fire and Emergency Services Administration. He has his EFO, which is, wow. I mean, dude, that's not easy. And he also has his CTO, Chief Training Officer designation. So, Brian, thank you for joining me tonight, brother.
Man, well, thank you for hosting it and for having the training officer platform. It's cool. I think we've seen a resurgence in training and training being redefined all around us, which is kind of what you're talking about, and that's exciting. And it's taken years for it to develop. And as recently as this evening, driving home from work, before being late to your show, I was talking with Kurt Isaacson about his plans for a training officer boot camp, kind of similar to the battalion chief boot camp. So I'm excited that there's more resources out there for training officers because, like you said, man, it's a lonely world, and it's something that every department has to have. We have to help each other and find shortcuts so we can get to training with the guys because that's what they want, and not just having to reinvent wheels every single time. So thank you for the platform. Thank you for being the resource, and we'll keep at it tonight with trying to make it something that people want to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Thank you. I think it's interesting. I like the training officer academy thing. I think that's going to be great stuff because, as you know, and we'll talk about it tonight, is just nobody prepared for this thing. Taking on training. Just because you took Fire Instructor 1 or educational methodology or whatever, doesn't make you prepared to do this. So that's nice. I like that. I think that's going to be awesome. All right. So, I know who you are. A lot of people. You have a great following. You've been doing this a while, and you touch a lot of different people throughout the country with your message and with the things that you bring to the table. But just to stay consistent with the way I have the show going, tell me a little bit about yourself, who you are, what's your background, and what inspired you to get into the fire service.
Well, I'm Brian Brush. I'm 43 years old. I got a wife, Sarah Brush, who we've been married for 20 years now. 3 kids, a junior in high school, my oldest son, my daughter's a freshman in high school, and my youngest son is a 7th grader. So my wife's a school nurse. She's been a nurse pretty much the whole time we've been married. So she was a NICU nurse and is now a school nurse in our child's school. So that's pretty cool. She's in the field of service as well. I got a start in the fire service just being a small town kid. I grew up in a town of about 1,500 people or so. And while it was a small town, the fire department was a big influence in that town. Pancake breakfast, so something a lot of people volunteered and were a part of. At 14 or 15 years old, we moved into town, and my neighbor was the assistant chief, and he kind of recruited me to join the high school volunteer program, which was epic because you would get a pager and you'd get out of school and you get to fly down to the firehouse, and they had a paid driver and a paid officer, and you jump on and be tailboard, and man, I was hooked. And it was just awesome. Just one, to be brought into something like that at such a young age, was amazing. And then to be surrounded by guys who just really cared about it and supported it was awesome. Out of Forestville Fire Department, there was a lot of guys volunteer who went career in other organizations or went to work for Cal Fire, which was CDF at the time. So there was a lot of path, almost like a farm league for a lot of departments out of that firehouse. And it just kind of became, the path I wanted to pursue because I looked up to so many of those guys that were doing it. And out of high school, I went to Oklahoma State University purely because of the fire program. I started working at the state training center there because it was run out of the school. So that was a student employee thing. So I had my instructor one at 18 years old, which, may not have been right, but I was a part of training ever since I've been in the fire service. And I think we all have been, we all see how valuable it is to be trained early on in our career. But, it took some time to come back to, but I've been around, done some time in California. I worked in the California Fire Service as a seasonal firefighter while I was going to college. Ultimately left Oklahoma State early to get a job at West Metro Fire outside of Denver. So worked there for 13 years in a variety of different positions, and then returned to Oklahoma in 2015 to be a little bit closer to family for my wife and kind of have a change of pace. But it was about that time when I came back to Oklahoma, and I went back through a fire academy at 35 years old and spent 23 weeks in a fire academy after a career of almost 20 years already. And it was fun, man. It was nice to be reset and get back to those basics. But also I was kind of surprised that some of the content was, had not changed. And so much of the fire service around me had changed. And I was puzzled by the kind of delay in adjustments in that initial training. And I had already been working on the national level as far as an instructor and seeing trends through UL studies and that type of stuff. And it made me want to do a better job for our future. And I remember being in those classes and having these young firefighters, these 20-year-olds coming to me, asking me questions. And I felt bad that their academy experience wasn't answering those questions for them. So fast forward about a year later, had just come off for probation at Edmond Fire Department and got promoted into the training division there as a training officer. I spent 3 years as a training officer at Edmond, and it was a great experience. It did reconnect me back to the fire service. It did take those things that I was having so much fun with teaching around the country and putting it into the organization that I was in. And I got a lot of experience, and, lo and behold, the training chief position opened up at Midwest City. So I kind of got to take that operational experience of my career as a firefighter at West Metro and combine it with my 3 years as a training officer at Edmond, and was trusted to take over the training division at Midwest City, and it's been an absolute blast. It's been a total blessing to try to take all those things and put them together and develop a program like we have going right now.
Yeah, so I'll tell you first, a lot of awesome stuff. So, I knew you came out from California originally, and then I knew you were out in Colorado for a little bit. So I didn't know, the whole background of how you got. But I love it. No, you smile, but I love it. So one, I wish I was writing this. So this is going to be my memory, right? And I'm like all hopped up on like Quill and everything right now because it's just the seasonal changes. So bear with me. Let me just try to play catch up. So one, starting off from the beginning. So I joined the fire department right before I graduated high school. I'd filled out my application, and the same thing. We were allowed to be released from school. So awesome that's how you got into it. Like I literally love that, right? And then two is the guy that was one of the chiefs at the time when I was a kid. He lived up the street from me, so yeah. I remember being a kid. He used to we used to have block parties, and like he used to let us put on his 3/4 lengths, and he had an old school New Yorker, So so that was something that was cool. So you saying that, I was just like, wow, like this is the first person I've interviewed or even talked to, because we go all over, that kind of has a similar background to me. Like everybody's always either like a legacy fireman or whatever, So it's really cool. I love that. So I'll say this. So that's really cool. I didn't know you that you went to OSU, so that's actually really cool too. So awesome on that end. No, but
I went there twice. I joke. I went there twice actually, just to kind of clarify. I dropped out in my junior year, the bachelor's program, because I got offered the job at West Metro, so that was cool. But it was also an engineering program, so I'd taken all the fire classes that I could, but I could not pass beyond algebra. So I was kind of doomed for the fire engineering thing. So I was out. I got my bachelor's degree at Colorado State. But I was able to return and get my master's at Oklahoma State. So I can still claim alum,
right.
Basically a recovering dropout.
But it gives everyone hope, though. That's so awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Don't quit.
Right. Don't quit. Yeah. No, but the thing I liked, if I don't know if you saw when you said that you took experiences that you had, operational experiences, right? Mm-hmm. And you coupled that with your training officer experience to be in the position you were at now. And I just started going like this. Like one of the things that I talked the most about, so I was never like the salty fireman. I never was. But I love being a firefighter. I love the tactical aspect of it. I love doing searches, whether we were training on it or it was real life going down a hallway, whatever. Like I just always loved search. Like I just, I don't know why, like I got put through the academy when I was 18, and I had the city fireman from Irvington, New Jersey, Craig Spurko. I was afraid. I had older brothers, and I was deathly afraid of the dark. And I was messing up on these. I was messing up. They were doing the confidence course where they turn your hood over your mask, And we didn't even light the building on fire yet. We didn't have smoke, nothing like that. And I was just like, I was scared, and I was like panicking. And he was like, I was screwing up and only won the class. So he stayed after and made me search through the whole building. And he just, he's just, you hear my voice. I'm like, yeah, he's like, stay calm, blah, blah. We're talking through it. I made it through the whole thing, made it through, and then I just got confident with it. And then I got so just confident in it that somebody saw something in me that, they took the time to try to teach me through it, coach me through it, that now it's like my favorite thing in the world to teach, my favorite skill to perform, etc. So where I'm going with that is, it is very important for somebody to get into the training officer realm to have had experiences. You don't have to be the subject matter expert. I'm not. You don't want me teaching you CPR. Trust me, you don't want me performing CPR on you, let alone teach it. But where I'm going is, we have to have a background to understand the need of our people. And without an operational skill set, a tactical skill set, a background in those type of things, you can YouTube the shit out of your training program. It doesn't mean that it's going to be relevant or practical. And there's good stuff on there, but people are going to see through that. You're not, all you are is just a conduit for, you're like Wi-Fi, you're just a conduit for the information. And you need to be a facilitator and you need to be an educator. And I love that you said that you took your operational experience and coupled that into there, because that's a thing that we fail in. I will not teach things that I knew I wasn't good at. Nonetheless, I know I don't want to toot my horn, say that's what separates me from bad training officers, in that I understand that there's things I shouldn't teach, and that's why I'll surround myself with a cadre of instructors who can be those SMEs and deliver that content properly, so that my people are developed properly. And I think that that's what people fail at, is they don't understand the background that you have to have. It's almost like it should be a prerequisite to getting into a training officer position. So I love that you said that. I just wanted to touch on that.
Well, I agree. Your terminology of coupling the two is important, because again, you can be extremely successful operationally and not be a good trainer. It's just the same as football players, baseball players. They can be exceptional athletes, but really just be successful because they're really good athletes. So the train, you can throw a ladder really well, and just do it like this does not develop anyone else. You have to have
right.
The understanding of being able to break that down into steps, being able to, as my buddy Court Smith at Oklahoma City talks about the chain. You got to link things together, because of anything is a chain of action. So, it's powerful, man. I mean, like you said, adult education, skills, someone coaching it through you, that you're talking about redefining the training officer. And that really is a big part of it. Having an experience as a background, but there's a lot of stuff. I mean, being the training officer for an organization, you are going to be tasked with teaching things that you don't have skills or experience in. There's no avoiding it. I mean, when COVID hit, I was like, what the, I don't know how to talk about communicable diseases and hazmats and vectors and
right.
But you got to figure it out, man. And then you have to learn it yourself, so that you can break down, okay, here's what worked for me in understanding this concept. And then you have to now articulate it back. So it's a much deeper dive. I think, be it any field, there's a lot of top-notch athletes that are terrible coaches. There's a lot of really good coaches that never played at a competitive level, but they know how to break down the atmosphere. So I applaud you for recognizing that and continuing to communicate it. So.
No, thank you. I appreciate you echoing that more, because it's an important thing. It's I say to people, some of the best firefighters I've ever worked with are horrible instructors, because they're actually their expectation, they don't understand the nature of what we do is to develop. So the expectation in a salty fireman's mind is like, this guy sucks. And it's like, well, yeah, he does now, but we can get him there. Some, and some maybe you can't, but that's a different show. But some, you can get them there, and that's where that whole empathetic piece. Like, I remember what this was like for me learning, so how can I try to adjust that to this person, and all that. And I just I think that people, I know the reason why I got so passionate about doing this is because I was a product of bad instruction. Like I said, bro, that happened almost 23 years ago. This guy, Craig Spurko. Okay. And I remember his name. I mean, I haven't seen that dude probably since then. He's probably retired. I don't know what he's doing. But I remember his name because that was the difference. That was the separation. And he was a salty guy. He's a city fireman in Irvington, not that where Irvington's at, but Irvington's a bad city. I mean, they fight a lot of fire. And, he took the time to work with me, while some other instructors, they didn't want to maybe put that effort into it, because it was like, well, maybe this is just an undesirable, so we'll get through it. and lo and behold, like, I feel like my career has been pretty great since, because this one person understood how to couple that experience and the education piece and put them together, and it's just important. I don't mean to beat a dead horse on it. It's just, that's why when you said it, it just sparked me, because it's something I talk about regularly, is understanding the difference between the two and how to marry the two. Because we don't, we base, like, it's like the chief of the organization. The guy's the best fireman in the world, but he's a shit chief. Trust me. Like, everybody's like, oh, that guy should be the chief. Why? Because he's a great fireman. Like, watch him run your organization into the ground, bro. Like, he has no administrative skills. He's no planning skills. He's a fireman. Let him go and be a fireman. That's why he's so great at that. And like that's what I try to say to people, is the same with training. Like, you don't have to be the greatest fireman in the world, but you have to have a background in what we do and understand what works for people, why it's important to train on it. But you also have to be patient. And I think that people that have had to struggle through training understand why it's important to be patient. Does that make sense?
No, it does. And I mean, when you were talking about that experience with, what was his name?
Craig Spurko.
Okay. So when you're talking about your experience with Craig, one specific word jumped out to me when you were talking about it. And you said he coached you through it. And I mean, that is the key term of those things coming together, and a coach is investing in you, So like, I mean, that is a big break of instructors. A lot of times it's almost a dictatorship. They're just delivering information, but a coach is one who assists you in the application of it. So that legendary quote is, the difference between an amateur and a professional is professionals have coaches. They have someone who is evaluating them and challenging them and developing them and working with them. Whereas an amateur is just you're only in that feedback loop of yourself. So be it, using a mirror, be it using game tape, be it using another person, but that someone is invested in your development. And I mean, that was a big breakover for me. I mean, I think that's a big breakover in all this training that we're seeing now. This interest in training is you're not just going to things and taking in information. You're going to things and you are working with literal position coaches. You have a person who is working with you on your engine company operations, and that's a position coach. You have a person who's working with you on your search techniques, on your forcible entry, whatever you're throwing ladders. I mean, it is the equivalent of your sandlot baseball team versus the pros, and you're now in a Division I school, and you're going to work with the infield coach today, and then you're going to work with the batting coach, and then you're going to be doing base running. Like we are, it's interesting because I think a lot of our career specialization was focused around, well, are you hazmat? Are you technical rescue? It's like, no, man, there is specialization within our fundamental skills and techniques. And that's exciting, man. It's fun to get better at what you do, and it's even more fun to know more about what you're doing. And that's what that dude tapped into. It wasn't just this search, go figure it out. You're going to remain an amateur if the message is go figure it out, but you are going to become a professional. If somebody's like, hey, did you consider this? I liked how you did that. You're institutionalizing the positive and you're shedding the negative. And that what you saw, your positive experience, that redefined training for you. And that's what you've applied. And that's an important thing. You view being a training officer as a coach because that was the most impactful experience you had.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for saying that, because it kind of clarified it in my own mind too. Like, you're 100% right. Like I said, it's almost 23 years. I still remember the guy's name. Yeah. I remember his face. I haven't seen him since I graduated the fire academy. So and
there's a good chance that you sat through a class just 2 weeks ago and you can't even remember that guy's name.
Right. I mean, that's the God's honest truth, because this guy was so impactful. You're 100% right. Yeah. That's sad. You're 100% right. Sometimes you remember their names so you know to steer clear of them. So you're like, I'm never going to that guy's class again. Yeah. So we covered some of that, but in the event that you had, a couple other tidbits on it. So tonight's episode, obviously we're covering, the training officer, right? The roles and responsibilities of it. So what is a training officer, and then what are some of the things that a training officer is responsible for?
Well, I like this question because I think it's just like, I think training is too broad of a term. Like, you got to break it down a little bit. Training is education, training is skill development, training is a lot of things. And we make it a junk drawer in the fire service. It's everything from research and development to operations to, all
Health
that
and
stuff.
safety.
So what I would say, and what I think needs to be made clear is, when we're defining a training officer, I think you need to separate it out. And man, I'm the only person in our training division with a department of almost 80 uniform members and about 8,000 calls a year. And so it's overwhelming. But even for me, I have to separate, what is a training chief and what is a training officer. And because they are two different roles, that the training chief is responsible for the organizational stuff. The training officer is responsible for the influential stuff. So you really have to know those two different roles. Because every department that has a training officer, if it's just one guy, you still have both those responsibilities. You have organizational planning, you have record keeping. I've been through audits of both ISO and EMS audits, so once again, if you're a one-man show and you're training, you have to work on your administrative skills. There's no getting around it. So being a good training chief or a training administrator is important to your organization, because you have to make sure what you're doing lines up with standards. It's being kept track of. The organizational responsibility of a training officer administratively is huge, because God forbid something should happen, the training records are the first things to be audited. So I guess that defining the training officer, there's, whether it's the training chief and a training officer, there's administrative skills, and then there's also those operational and influential skills. So training chief, I think I wrote down here, you got to be on your organizational stuff, your record keeping, your lesson plans, explaining a lot of things to this. We have to do this. We want to do this. We need to do that. That type of stuff. But then the training officer is the guy who rolls it out. It's where the rubber meets the road. And the training officer is the influential person. They're the change agent. They're the position coach. They're the ones who are really the operational leg of training. So just like your department, you got administrative and operational folks in training. It is just the same thing. So I think that's an important thing for people to do, because if you are looking to get into training because you want to be forcing doors and all that type of stuff every day, you're going to have a rude awakening when you need to spend a lot of time at the desk.
Right.
And those guys in the field, they got to understand, man, believe me, there's nothing more I want to do than to be in my drill tower every single day doing work, but I can't, it's out of 5 days a week, I have to commit, at least 3 of those to administrative tasks, because it's just a heavier weight. So I'm only available so much for being the training officer, and hopefully we get to a point where it doesn't have to be split personalities. It can be actually, different people with different roles. But
right.
Anybody coming into training has to know that there's those two sides. If you're going into training to retire because you want to add a few years to your career, you want to like, that doesn't fly. Your administrative skills are only going to get you so far. But if you're not able to perform and break down skills and tasks and get guys to see the value of it and demonstrate it, then you're failing them too. So it's a tough spot. It's a high accountability position. It's a position where you have to manage all shifts. You can't just do it one way for one crew. You have to grind. There's times where you got to deliver the same program, 9, 12, who knows how many times. But it's tough, man. It's a gut check, but if you have the passion, that's where the fuel tank comes from, and you just keep going.
Dude, all this stuff is coming to my brain right now. So one, we should have done this a long time ago, you and I. I mean, bro, we're co-authoring an article together. I don't know if it'll make the magazine, because I feel like we're both going to be very opinionated in it. But,
the two-headed training guy. Right,
dude. I'm not going to hold you. That's why I'm like floored right now because, we're doing this at night. Oh, bro, I can't wait till April because you and I are going to have another talk about this because, bro. So I'm sorry. So one, I don't mean to cliche the 100%, but I'm going to say 1,000% agree with you. Okay. Um, some departments have different makeups. So for the listener, I want you to understand that what Brian's saying, I connect with that because I have a career department. I've worked in different size departments. So I understand the difference in the training chief and then training officer tiered process. Some people don't have that luxury, which is fine. Nonetheless, understand the importance and the value of the information that Brian was just sharing. And that is, if one, training is not a stowaway. So all due respect to those that couldn't hack it on the rig anymore. And I talk about this in my class. Like if you couldn't hack it on the rig, like I'm sorry, but you shouldn't be training firefighters. Like I'm sorry, but you just shouldn't. Okay. Training's not a stowaway. We need to get away from that. We got 30, 40, 50, 60, maybe even 80 years of a tradition of taking dudes that couldn't do it anymore and sticking training to be a light duty position. It's not a stowaway. Okay. You have to have administrative skills. You have to have facilitation skills. You have to have budgetary skills. Okay. You got to be a friggin' accountant. You have to be able to be willing to network with people. This is the fire service. We have egos. We're alpha people. I don't want to talk to someone else and let them know that I don't know something, but now I need to, right? Then you got to deal with different personalities. So whether you're volunteer or career, but it happens in the career side because when you said the shifts, oh Lord, it's like administratively managing a training schedule on different types of firefighter shifts is an administrative nightmare. Okay. Finding a way to have the consistency and the cohesiveness required in how the training is executed for the mission need is like, I mean, like, most training officers, we're losing our hair because of the stress that goes behind, right? Um, and then adding your fundamental background to not just maintain but find a way to be progressive. So like I believe in repetition training because in the fire service, like I say to people, our brain is a filing cabinet, and there's only so much that you can get in there before something falls out. You can't fit it in no more, right? So a lot of skills that we are expected to perform, they become perishable, which then that's why repetition training is very important. So then you as the training officer, you figure out what your frequencies are for your repetition training. But either way, each repeated training event, there should be growth. It should never be, the same as like, okay, well, we hit the benchmarks, we hit the objectives. This is what we did last year. This is what we did 3 months ago. We did the same thing this time. There should be progressiveness. There should be growth, which again is why you as the training officer, not only do you have to be administrative, understand budgets, understand how to write policies, understand how to facilitate, understand how to network, be resourceful, and be up to date. But in order to be up to date, you also got to continue to go to training yourself because you have to be the SME. You're the god in your department. They think, well, whatever we're training on, you're telling us to train on it. So that means you know already that this is something we're supposed to be doing. And I don't mean to say it like to scare people because I love it, man. I say it with true desire and true passion. I love that you were saying it because it's like people don't realize, like, if you care about developing others and you care about our thing, the fire service, and you have this opportunity to inspire people, to develop firefighters, to build our fire service, then you know that it is highly offensive that our thing is perceived as a stowaway or as a segue to getting another chief's position or whatever. The fact that you said the training chief thing, right? That in itself is important. While maybe your department's makeup is the training chief doesn't run calls like mine, but when I was up at West Point and when I now in Letterkenny before promoting into ops and then being the interim chief, I ran the shift. 1 or 2 nights a week. I was an assistant chief. I was doing operation stuff. But some departments, they don't have that. The chief is in charge of the department. That's why the training officer has a training chief position, because that person is in charge of the training division or training branch, whatever it is. It's important. That title is actually important for that person to have. It shouldn't be a joke that, oh, well, so-and-so couldn't be on the engine anymore. Now he's a chief. Like, yeah, he's a chief because he's responsible for something that's really important, some chief level stuff that you probably couldn't do, like that's why you're the Walmart greeter and they're the general manager, So I'm sorry, brother. I love that you said it. That's why I was like floored for a second. I'm like, bro, we should have did this a long time ago. Everything you're saying is the stuff that I talk about. It's like, whew, thank you. Thank you for just, I'm not alone in my problems, and I don't mean to say problems. I'm not alone in my message. Like, I love that you're saying this stuff. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Well, I mean, like you said, to the guys who shouldn't be there, explaining to them how much goes into it is intimidating. They're like, oh shit, I don't want to do that. Perfect. Like, then training's not for you. But if you're the type of person who is into everything because you're so passionate and ate up with the fire service, the best way to get into everything is to be in training, because you will be involved in everything. So
right, whether you like honestly, it or not, you're gonna be.
I believe that, like, when it comes to fire department operations, leading and training are synonymous. Training is what leads new strategies, new tactics, new education. Like, you will not move forward if you're not training. So I mean, again, I'm not a leader, but I am a trainer, and training takes organizations forward.
I'm finishing writing the book, and I have that in my class. Training officers are leaders too. That's literally the name of the thing. So I love that you just said that. Like, dude, we should have did this a while ago. Oh man. Yeah. Yes. All right. So tell us a little bit about your experiences as an instructor and as a training officer. What are some of the challenges that you faced or that face fire service training? And then the follow up to that is how did you get over those challenges? And then how would you suggest for those of us that may face them one day, what's a way that we can overcome those challenges?
Well, it was, I'd say the biggest one, like probably one of the biggest barriers that I've come to realize that is something I took for granted for a long time was facilities. Training in context is extremely important. So, like, again, let's separate it out. We can teach a lot of classes, we can do a lot of videos, and there is a lot of value in just education. But like skill development, we have a physical job. If we are not participating in physical training on a regular basis, then again, we're failing the organization. And like, we can blame the guys for not doing it, but it is our job to facilitate it, lead it, promote it, endorse it. And man, having come from a big organization with a great training facility, or just a proactive department that allowed you to take advantage of acquired structures or just structures in the district, going to a place that didn't have a facility, that's a big challenge, because again, training in context is really important. You can stretch hose and say, well, picture this, but everybody now has their own picture in their head. And that's really tough. So moving to Midwest City, when I got hired there, they had the money for a training facility, but it wasn't in existence. So facilities and training in context is a big challenge. So, I mean, how did I overcome it? We did a lot of pallets and plywood, but just little things help get the message a little bit deeper entrenched and a little bit better understood, and creating obstacles, making things more real, just in any way, shape, or form that you can. Going that extra mile to set up is worth it. There was many, many times I would put 5, 10, 20 hours into prepping a place to do a drill. And that might only be a 1 hour training per company. And easily. The guys are like, man, you did that for 1 hour. It's like, yes, but I've got 6 hours today. I've got 6 hours tomorrow. I've got 6 hours. Like, so the to me, I still am coming out ahead, but as long as that hour became higher quality and left an impression, then yeah, 1 hour of one company getting it is worth the 20 hours of my time. That's my job. So facilities is a really tough barrier, again, especially when it comes to physical training. We have to prioritize physical training. We have to get guys out there, guys and gals, to do it. Even our command officers go through the exercises of looking at things, talking on the radio. The mechanics of it is really important. And with that, man, the other barrier is weather. I mean, it pains me that heat limits what we can do, or ice limits what we can do, and all these types of things, because once again, you know, the modern training calendar is there's no off season. I almost used the F word, but there just is no off season. You have to constantly be on the calendar, beating the drum. And I know it wears guys out, but when you have a stretch of bad weather or stretches of extremely hot weather and it throws your calendar off, you can't throw things out when your calendar's thrown off. You have to adjust and keep working.
Right.
So facilities is tough, but you can work through it a lot of times in some way, shape, or form with a prop or a setup or whatever. But I mean, we came out of the hot summer. We're in the fall, and man, it is sweet. Today we had a classroom session. I scheduled it for November, and it's 82 degrees out. And I am just going nuts because this is a prime day for us to be outside. But it's the same thing as, well, I scheduled a hands-on training and we could be in a classroom today. So it's just, then again, back to the drama of a training officer. I spent a lot of time on the 10-day forecast, and anxiety pills over, is this going to go or isn't it? So,
right. So again, you have to be a weatherman, right? Like, these are things that people don't realize. It's funny you say that. So I always say you gotta have one in the chamber, right? So shit happens. We could run a call, and the companies, they're out fighting a fire or whatever like that, depending on the severity or the length of the call. The guys could have got their asses kicked. So maybe we'll scratch the what type of training, because these guys were just doing something, right? But nonetheless, like you said, you could look at the 10-day forecast, and as we all know, that's never accurate, right? So then all of a sudden a storm comes in or something, and we have to readjust. So always be prepared to have one in the chamber. Your backup doesn't have to be as sexy as your primary. That's okay. That's why it's a backup. But don't just do nothing. Any type of thing, whether you guys just took the saw off of the engine and said, hey, new guy, do you know how to change the blade? Do you know what type of oil that takes? And I guarantee that there's senior guys that haven't checked that or played with it. I call them back of the line people. Whenever they see somebody doing it, they go to the back of the line so they don't have to do it. That it refreshes them memory, because they probably forgot it too, and you end up having yourself a good training session. The weather things, you're down there in Oklahoma, I'm up in Pennsylvania. We had the same thing, bro. It was cold as hell last week. That's why I got sick. So it was cold as hell last week. And then this week it's been in the high to mid 70s. So I had a fast board. I don't want to get in trouble. They wrote an article for fire engineering, so we're not going to get in trouble. But anyway, and plus they buy a booth every year at FDIC. So I'm not plugging anybody, but just so you know. So I bought the board. When you buy the board from Eric and his team, it comes with training. So I couldn't get them to come out until literally this past Monday. And I'm sitting here like, shit, man. Like, it's, temperature drops pretty bad right after Halloween. Like, I think the guys are going to be a little pissed, but that's all right. They're going to be in gear, and, they're going to be moving people around and everything like that. Bro, it was in the mid 70s. So it was a beautiful day because it wasn't that much humidity, but like the guys were sweating. And the training ended up being great. And I got very happy. We did a lot of great stuff. So sometimes the point is sometimes it works in your favor. Not always. Like 80% of the time it works against us. But this one time yesterday, I literally looked up at the gods and I was like, thank you, training officer gods. Thank you for giving me the perfect day to have this training, because that never happened. So it worked out for me yesterday. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I call it seasonal training, be smart with how you're going to set your people up for your training evolutions. If you do the crawl, walk, run where you do, month to month where it grows into the next thing. Understand that if you live in an area where the climate is in January, it's going to be below 32 and you're going to chance 3 feet of snow. Probably don't want to have your drill be executed in January. Maybe that'll be the lecture, but these are just things that you need to understand. So I love that you were saying that, because these are challenges that, I get because I'm doing it too. But there's people that are watching this show that are listening in or whatever, and they don't know that. They think that the training officer is just, it's either the guy that was the really salty guy that could crawl a hallway better than anybody or force a door better than anybody, or it was the guy that couldn't do any of that, and that's why he's driving the desk now, because he sucks. And it's like, nah, man. Like if you believe in this and you want to develop firefighters and you want to develop a good training program and execute a good training program, there is so much shit that people don't realize. Like, we're weathermen, I mean, we got to sit there and basically become meteorologists too. You don't realize it. So I love that you're touching on this stuff, man. I just love it. So, go ahead if you're going to say so. I'm sorry.
No, that's good.
So kind of in the realm of what we're talking about, what would you, someone who's either aspiring to become a training officer or training chief, whatever, or has recently become one?
I mean, dude, just you're gonna get crushed if you don't care, or either you're gonna get crushed if you don't care, or your department's gonna suffer because you don't care. And right. I guess if you don't care, then your department will suffer and it won't matter to you. But you really have to have the passion for it. And I think, man, there's a lot of people, and again, back to redefining training. I think for too long, training is kind of like a thing at the end of someone's career, or it's a stopover ahead of a promotion. It's kind of a transitory position. But man, I think you got to get into training when you're still into it, because people will see it. People will trust it. I mean, I know there's guys who I work with who absolutely hate training and hate me, but they can't argue with the fact that when we're out there throwing ladders, I'm doing it. And if a 43-year-old man who runs a desk all day can do it, then what is your excuse when you're on that rig 10 days a month? And maybe that's what's uncomfortable. But that's again where growth comes from, is that. So, man, it takes a lot of work. It is a absolute grind. Training is a grind, but it keeps me accountable to myself. It keeps me disciplined. It keeps me doing it every single day. And I honestly think that is a lot of what is going to contribute to my longevity is just sticking with it, getting up every morning and working out here at home, because I don't have the time to work out at work. Even though it's in my contract, but it's important. I have to stay in shape, because last month we hired 3 kids. 2 of them are 20 years old. One of them is 27, and I got to run their academy for a month. And I want their experience to be positive, and I want them to see that a guy with, that's twice their age still loves it, still pushes it, and sometimes just crushing them. So that is the way I want it to be, is to be, if we preach to our people to lead by example, then we better be doing it too. So if you believe in training, you believe in training being something different than what you experience, then you need to be that difference.
No, I wholeheartely agree with that. Like you said, I love that you had said about how you try to work out at home, because you can't at work. I'm not making excuses. I've been up and down in weight. I've recently I lost well over 60 pounds about a year ago, and then I've started to even out a little, but I still feel pretty good, because there was a time, that's the truth, So I was I like to do stuff with them too. if at anything, just because like I don't do that for the cliche thing. One, I don't know, man. I think like you and I, like we're close in age, so like I think our age is a perfect age to get into training because you still got it, but you're seasoned enough that like you're separate when you need to be, right? So there's times where like I will absolutely play along with stuff because I just wanna and I like to do it and I wanna see if I still got it and everything like that. But we were doing training and I had facilitated it and I had a throw on gear because we're doing fire dynamics with under live fire with Class A fire and using OSB and what do you call it dude, I was getting my ass kicked and I weighed like 293 so I was like, man, like I gotta lose weight, bro. Like I got young kids and like I'm like 40 and like this is bad, like you know what I mean. So I just cut carbs and then got myself to be in a decent comfortable position where now I'm doing stuff with them and I enjoy it, but that's like I said, like you know it's so hard to add extra things and I'm not making an excuse. I'm telling you that, like you said, you work out at home because when you're at the firehouse, like it's tough to do when you're in the office. We are doing so much. We are planning, attending meetings, training. We're learning ourselves. We're attending training ourselves. We're facilitating. We're setting up. Like I could before. You had said about you can set up a drill for 2 hours and then the drill pops off. They're packed up and mopped up and ready to go in less than 45 minutes from the time that they arrive to the time that the drill's over. Nobody realizes that 2 hours to 3 hours it took to set that drill up in place for them to just come in and do what they do. Um, and that's just it is like, like for me, just speaking for myself, like we got a couple dummies, right? Well, one of them weighs 170 pounds and it's dead weight. Another one weighs like 140 pounds. And then there's a couple other smaller ones. Like when I'm setting up drills, I'm John Wayne in it. So I'm carrying this bitch on my back, on my shoulder upstairs, and I'm trying to make it like, a challenge. So I'm like dragging this thing and like hiding it under something, and I'm putting like pallets on top of it or something like that, So it was like something. This guy went through a collapse. It's like, dude, like so they show up and like I'm all sweaty and I'm dirty. My white shirt, like I hate being a training officer and wearing a white shirt. I loved wearing navy blue because it didn't show as many stains, But like the guys would show up and they'd drill and then they're like looking at me like I'm just standing outside. Their perception is I'm just standing outside. And they're like, oh, what the hell happened? Would you roll around in dirt? And I'm like, bro, you don't even know what I just went through before you got here. You know what I mean? Like I'm getting my ass kicked by myself before you guys even showed up, So no, I love all that stuff that you're saying because, it's something that people need to understand. Like, I'm not picking on anybody and I'm not trying to scare anybody. It's just a fact. Okay. Training isn't meant for everybody. I don't mean training. Everybody should be training. I meant facilitating training, being the training chief, being the person in charge of a training division or being a training officer. It's not meant for everybody. Just because you have certifications or an education to I guess, justify or imply that you should be able to run a training doesn't necessarily mean you should run it. So you need to understand that there is a lot going on in training. They give us many hats. It's we're like an octopus, seriously. And the expectation of everybody is that you're ready. You have this information, you have the receipts on hand, and you're ready to just hey, where's that thing? Oh, it's right here. Boom. And I'm gonna tell you just from my own experience. And then feel free to chime in on it, Brian. But just regardless of whether or not somebody is better than you operationally, skill set wise, whatever. If you're the training officer from the youngest, especially the youngest, they're the most impressionable. But to even the older guys, they want to be inspired by you. You have to understand that you wanting to train along with them, you wanting to do good content, you wanting to adjust and facilitate a program that meets their needs and their intents and their desires, and makes them better, they want that. Some of them aren't going to say it. Most of them are never going to tell you that. I say, like Abraham Lincoln, like, when he was doing the Emancipation Proclamation, the 13th Amendment, he was the most unpopular president in the history of our country. Imagine CNN being around then. They'd have a field day. But he was, and it didn't matter. He stayed the course, and he never quite literally never got to live to see the fruit of his labor. So there's a good chance you're going to go through it and you're not going to be able to see the fruit of your labor. But here's how you will. They're not going to tell you, but when you see them execute at a call and they did awesome, or like what's happening to us, I transferred down to Letterkenny, which is an Army base in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, from West Point. West Point's pretty monumental, right? Letterkenny had this kind of perception thing going on, and we got a lot of great players on the team, man, and they weren't being marketed enough, and so we did that through training, and we did that through showing people our skills, and now we're being called on different assignments, being special requested, being added to people's boxes, being invited to their training evolutions. That's the fruit of the labor. That's like, man, we're doing it, and they're never going to tell you. They're not, and that's okay. But understand that inside they want to be inspired. And like I said, man, chime in when you want. I know we got a couple things to cover there, but I know you understand that more than anybody. So I'm just a listener to understand that. It's just like, you're going to do a lot, and it's going to be taxing, and it's going to be stressful, and you got to be on your game. And there's a lot more than you thought. It's normal to kind of grow to get a level of pessimism or animosity, but you got to try hard to keep your game face and inspire people because they're looking. Trust me, they're looking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's again back to like the setting up the drill thing, and like you have to just enjoy that. I mean, like I enjoy the project work, man. I tell people all the time, probably 60% of my job as a training officer with a facility is being a ranch hand. Like you're shuttling bales of Excelsior, you're moving pallets, but I mean, I enjoy that. You have to truly embrace the service above self that comes with our profession. And if you're not doing it on the rigs, you're doing it wrong. If you're not doing it in training, you're doing it wrong. Like the guys, you should never care that guys come down to training and they don't say, hey, thanks for putting in those 30 hours of framing those walls and hanging those doors. Like, I really appreciate that. That means nothing to you.
Nothing.
Like they show up and efficiently run a drill in context in a good environment. Again, they won't appreciate those things, but even to the point of their next fire, they may not think, oh man, this fire went well because the training environment we just had was a lot like this house. They may not make those connections. It doesn't matter. You did it. My kids will never, ever, ever know what we've done to, for them in a lot of ways and all this stuff, but it doesn't matter. The end goal is for them to have a better life than we had, and have good life lessons and all that type of stuff. Man, if you never hear from your kids, hey, Dad, I really appreciated that. It's not going to change. It'd be nice, but it's not going to change what I'm doing. I could walk off the face of the earth today and never know that. But I mean, that's what it's about. So, and then again, like we're getting in shape. You nailed it too. You're like, whoa, like I've got a wife, I've got kids, I got this. There are certain things like, I have in contract that I could work out at work, but my main priority at work is operations and training. Like being in shape, if it's important enough to me to take advantage of it at work, it should be important enough for me to do it off duty. I can't just be a occupational fitness. I have to be fit overall. So what does that mean? I got to get up an hour early to do it right at home on a consistent basis, because at work, it's not going to be consistent. So I'm making that conscious change. It's just or conscious decision. It's the same thing. It's like, well, I don't have to put the time and effort and energy into these things at work. It's overwhelming for sure, but a lot of it's self-inflicted. But that's the way I want it to be. That's the way I wish there was someone doing that for me when I was a young firefighter. It took some time for our department to get to that point, but that was instilled in me at a very young age. Forestville Fire Department, those guys cared about training. They go the extra mile for you. They'd support you. They develop you. So my imprint is that this is the way it should be, and I'm stuck with it. This is the ADD, work all the time, sleep when you're dead atmosphere, and that's how I'm going to grind. So
right. No, I get it, man. I do. I give you credit. That's really cool. So let's talk about FDIC. So FDIC is coming up in April. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. And so what do you got going on? Do you know when you have stuff going on?
Yeah, I changing things up a little bit this year. I'm doing a workshop, and it's from online to on scene, talking about online command systems, online command training systems, and getting it to into practice in your organization. I've been obviously worked for a few different departments. Worked for West Metro, which at the time was 15 stations and a little over 300 members. Now I think they're 17 or 18 stations and 400 members or something like that. So busy system that at that time, I saw the adoption of Blue Card. I saw how it worked in that organization. Worked at Edmond Fire Department through their training division, saw them implement Blue Card, came to Midwest City Fire Department, who had Blue Card, but now has worked into the Castro's Calm the Chaos program. So there's a lot of push for online training, especially in officer development, to check boxes for professional development. But unless you implement it, it fails to institutionalize it and really make it happen. At the same time, no system is right for entire organization. So you really have to do a good needs assessment and evaluation and say, what things are we going to take? Because we can't adopt this completely off the shelf. So just kind of a workshop to help assist people in the goods, the bads, the uglies, the lessons learned, the positives with those types of programs, because it's not going away. Online training is something that we have to do. Professional standards have to happen, but how to get traction in it into your promotional processes and into your department is an important thing. So doing a workshop on that, and then doing a classroom, the civilian rescue. The reason
cool.
why
You're doing two.
Yeah, so doing a workshop, pre-conference, and then a classroom during the conference, and that's been a program we've done for about 4 years now. A joint one with Chief Castros on civilian rescues from the command side, and then from the firefighter rescue survey side. So I'm pretty excited about that, and then hope to spend some time on Tuesday out at some hands-on sites and everything. But man, I'm excited for FDIC. I mean, doing the keynote last year was just an incredible experience. The time and effort to put into that, and the reward of being able to deliver that was definitely a huge recharge for me. The passing of Bobby Halton took a big toll on me, but at the same time, I will never forget sitting in that room at his funeral with a very small group and knowing that I've been brought here to further the not necessarily Bobby's work, but to continue the institution of Fire Engineering Magazine and what it is, and to reinvest what fire engineering has given to me over the years, all the way back to 1996, reading those articles in a firehouse as a high school volunteer, man. So
right.
I've taken a career's worth from fire engineering, and I want to make sure that I'm a part of their future, and doing everything I can to support that institution going forward, and possibly redefining it, as we all know that training and education and media is constantly evolving.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. No, that's cool. So what days are you teaching?
I believe Monday and Wednesday. I think Monday.
Okay. Do you know what times or no?
I think Monday morning, and I think Wednesday afternoon. I'd have to double check.
Okay.
If it's more than like 3 weeks away, I have a real hard time knowing exactly what I'm supposed to do. As you know, with tonight, I was 20 minutes late to this appointment. So.
No, you're good, brother. You're good. Well, anyway, just for the audience, look up Brian because they're going to be great classes, and Anthony Castros is awesome too. So that's cool that you guys are going to be doing stuff together. Yeah, cool. And if you haven't registered, I believe early bird's still out, so register.
And I think they got the house. I think they got the housing link up already, which is important.
The housing link's up.
Right. Take advantage of that as early as possible for sure.
Right. I'll tell you, we did it smart this time, better than we've done before. We blocked out a lot of downtown rooms, not just for the people that are part of the instructors and the FDIC family, but for attendees. They were smart. So getting old. No, but so I say to people like, the housing thing's out there, get on that. Those things go quick, and it's not easy to stay downtown, and that's where the action's at, But yeah, register. Early bird's out, so they don't give us anything. I promise, they don't give us anything to plug this stuff. It's just, dude, nothing compares. I don't mean any insult to anybody else that's running anything out there. It's just a fact. I love being out there. I feel like a kid every time I'm out there. Norman's got that book, Working with Giants, and it's an awesome book. But that's what I feel like when I'm at FDIC. I'm training with Giants. It's so cool. It's just a really cool opportunity. So for those of you that are listening or watching, definitely try to get on there and go, because you're going to miss out if you don't. It's just, dude, it's every walk of life. It goes by so fast. It's like I say to people, it's like your wedding. It's so much planning into it, and then it's done. And then you got a lifetime of misery. No, but seriously, like FDIC is it's the pinnacle, man. It's everything. So definitely check out Brian. He's going to be out there. So then, last question. I ask everybody when I do this, and it's a tough question, but I don't care. That's why I always ask it. I leave it in there. In our thing, especially with us with training, I say this to people: it's not for you to get, try to be humble. And I appreciate the humility piece of it. And if you start your answer with that, that's fine, because most people do. Just understand that as training officers, we have to set objectives, right? Everything we do has a purpose and a principle and an end goal. So it's important for us to have some kind of self goal. It's not with humility. It's not arrogance. It's not narcissism. It's real, because then it defines that you're doing things for a purpose. So what legacy would you like to leave behind?
Man, legacy in one way is like body of work. So I just want to always be contributing to the fire service. It's been a part of my life more than I guess I've been in the fire service. Fire service has been a part of my life longer than it wasn't, getting in at 16 years old. So it's my life's work, and I feel like that in itself is a legacy, and I hope to even be contributing to the fire service when I'm out of the career. So hopefully I leave behind a strong body of work. I guess if you think about legacy as far as like what would people remember you for or something like that, and I would hope that be it the fire department, be it the department that I'm working in right now, or be it the National Fire Service, how people think of me, or be it even my kids, I would hope I'd be remembered as someone who, if I could do it all over again, I would. And that's important to me. I first got in the fire service at 16 years old. I went through West Metro's Fire Academy when I was 21. I went through Edmonds Fire Academy when I was 35. I mean, I was on a greater alarm fire, and 3 weeks later, I was an officer on a heavy rescue on a great alarm fire, and then 3 weeks later, I'm tying, bowlines, and it didn't matter because it was what I love. I mean, this September, I ran a recruit academy with the guys, and I am all the way up to my last day, man. I believe that I'd love to do it all over again, and I hope that my kids see that. I hope that firefighters around me see that. I think it's terrible that people leave our job and they don't feel that way. If you get to the point where you recognize that this isn't for you, it's unfortunate that people feel trapped in it, because, man, I'll reset every day, and I'm perfectly fine with that, because I know how good it is, and I know how much fun I'm having, and at the same time, it's super rewarding to be sitting at a command staff table and having organizational influence. It's awesome to be lining out a training program, knowing that I have longevity as a chief, and knowing that it's okay if this is going to take 3 to 5 years to get done, because I'm going to be here for it, and I'm going to see it through. And we have great people supporting it, and it's going to sustain. So, but man, if I had to start all over today, I would do it. Yeah, because it would just extend my timeline. It's like, all right, so I love it, man. I love it through and through. So I'm a blessed man that my passion and my profession are in a line, because it sure makes my life better inside and outside of my job.
Right. It's awesome. I love that. If you had the opportunity to do it all over, you'd do it all over again. And I think that there's huge merit to that, because like you said, we have people that they're like, they're counting the days. And it's funny sometimes, they download the app when they can retire, I get it, it's funny. But yeah, just I say to my guys now, we got a lot of young guys we hired. We, in the past couple of years, we hired a lot of great young guys. And I say to them, I'm like, you ask any older guy, the thing they miss the most, and that's this time hanging out in the kitchen and just breaking each other's stones and the jokes, and that it's just, yeah, I love that. I really do. I honestly I think that I connect with that big, because I too have been doing this more than half the amount of time that I've been on this earth, and sometimes it becomes all we know, because we do it so much. So yeah, you gotta love it. I mean, you gotta love it, and you do.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. The guys who are counting their days to retirement, and I see it. It's all around me, man. And here I am going, man, when are we going to hire new firefighters again? Because I get excited when we bring on, new blood, right, new environment. And like, I know, hey, that's 3 weeks where I'm going to be working out with them every morning and throwing gear on and forcing doors and throwing and not all of my administrative tasks take a back seat to that.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
Oh yeah.
Now, granted, I pay for it the next month when I got to get caught up on everything, but for that brief period of time, man,
it never goes away. It doesn't go on pause.
Yeah, for that 1 month, I am a new firefighter,
right,
and there's nothing better than that, man. It's like back to the courtship days again. You're starting a fresh relationship with a new love, and it could not be more exciting.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, man. I do. I love when we get new people, like you said before about the reset thing. It's just it's like a reset for ourselves, because things start to monotony starts to build up, and then you're in that fear of becoming complacent or becoming pessimistic, and then the new guy comes and you're like, ooh, yeah, project, ooh, blank canvas. I love this.
I was a part of a really rough time at a department, and we went on a 2-year hiring freeze, and it was a tough period for the organization to go that long without having new blood injected into it, and not having guys, passing on their skills and passion for the job. I mean, you can say that it was a hold or a neutral point, but really there was a lot of regression in a 2-year period where new stuff isn't coming into an organization.
And that happens. That happens because you need that. That freshness. It I don't want to use the word keeps you young in a negative kind of sense, but it does. It's like you said, reset. You're like, we have our kids. Man, like I'm yawning right now. But my kid, man, like he I have a daughter and a son. My son, he'll be like, oh, daddy, can we play wrestling real quick? Like, yeah, all right, because but then I get into it, like in the moment that he asks, I'm like, oh. And then I'm doing it, and like I'm having fun now, and then we're past his bedtime, and his mother's getting pissed at me because I'm playing with my kid, but it's the truth. It's the same as in our firehouse, those young guys, they keep us fresh. They keep us loving it too, because we live vicariously through them, because we remember what it was like to be fresh coming in the firehouse. Yeah. All right. So any final words from you? Floor is yours. Anything you want to leave us with? Say, it's all yours.
No, man. I mean, thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Thanks Chief Rhodes and all of Fire Engineering for supporting these platforms. It's just awesome. And Mark and all those guys who've taken this podcast to the next level by having the video stream. I mean, we're heading in the right direction, man. I'm really excited about all that's going on at Fire Engineering. I'm excited about guys like you who are involved, and could not be more excited about all those people who take the time to either watch these live or pick them up as a podcast, because we are building on each other, and that's how we keep moving forward is capturing progress and stacking on top of it.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. What he just said. Ditto. Really, it's important. Rhodes was onto something, man. I joke with him because I tell him, I'm like, you sure you want to do the video thing? Like, he's like, yeah, man, I want to start doing videos, and I'm like, yeah, well, I don't have a face for radio. I mean, I have a face for radio, So, but hats off to Rhodes for bringing us to that next level. That was definitely huge. I love that. And then sure, Mark, man. I mean, everybody behind the scenes, Mark's the man behind the curtain. People don't realize that, like I always say, Diane's the man behind the curtain with FDIC and stuff, and Mark is with this platform. And this has given us more of an opportunity than when the way we were doing it before, just because it's so many different avenues now to stream and watch and listen. I mean, whether you pause halfway through, whatever, thank you for listening. Keep listening. Because no matter what, it ain't my show, anybody's show. I mean, you could pick up just in conversation some kind of nugget that gets you through your day, or they just said something, So it's a really useful tool that we have in our fire service toolbox, and I love it, because at least I feel like for most of us on this side, the Fire Engineering podcast, a lot of us we're spewing out some good content, some good stories, and some good content, and some relevant stuff. And that's kind of important too, So yeah, I appreciate you saying that. Listen, brother, dude, we should have done this a long time ago. I swear to you, dude, I always have a good time with every guest I have. I'm very, Mark was complimenting me before, I'm very particular on who I pick. And when I picked them to be on the show. This is become a science to me now for doing this for 5 years now, So remember I hit you up a month ago, and I'm like, hey, I want you to do the show in November, is because I knew I wanted to do the show with you. I knew your background, and I knew that this would just be a good segue into going into for my next show into December. And I'm telling you, you and I, we're going to stay in touch. I mean, we've been in touch for a few years now, but I'm saying we're going to collaborate on something. I'm telling you, I'm asking you if you would be willing to do it. I'm sorry. It's the training chief in me coming out, but because I'll tell you, bro, sometimes I feel alone in my message. And I love that you are saying all the stuff that I've been saying. I'm just like, oh my God, we have to do something together. I'm telling you, it's advantageous for all the people that we try to connect with. It's advantageous. I would love to do something with you. So I appreciate you being on the show. It means the world to me, and it definitely was. It means the world to the audience because you had a lot of great stuff to bring to the table. So thank you, brother. I do appreciate it, man.
No problem, man.
All right, well, this has been Dave McGlynn with Fire Engineering Podcast. Almost said it wrong again. The Training Officer. Fire Engineering Podcast, The Training Officer. Mark, you're going to have to that. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys next month. Happy Thanksgiving, and be safe, everybody. Thank you.
The Fire Store, equipping protectors with passion. Every decision the Fire Store makes as a company is about its customers. As the holiday season has quickly approached, explore a wide selection of unique and practical gifts at the Fire Store's Gift Center. Find the perfect presents for firefighters, EMTs, and first responders today. The Fire Store's goal is to get you the gear you need when you need it at prices you can afford. Visit thefirestore.com for everything but the truck and shop its family of brands including Streamlight, MSA, Lion, Fleer, and more.